I'm constantly overwhelmed with creative anxiety because there are so many ideas that I want to make, ideas that I feel like you expect me to make, and then ideas that I have just to learn new things. Welcome back. I'm Christine. This is Mike. Having a bunch of ideas isn't a bad thing, but if it creates so much overwhelm and creative anxiety that you can't create at all, then you have to do something about it. So grab your sketchbook and come along with me as I share some ideas that will help us both feel better. Start with my comfort art supply kit. These are things that are fun for me to create with, and they make it easy for me to grab some art supplies and get started without any thought. If you're following along with me today, this is a great time to grab some of your favorite comfort supplies and let's get started. For this first idea, I want you to practice a technique or style you've been wanting to learn, but only use a small handful of comfort art supplies to do it. Sometimes I get anxious because I spend so much time trying to figure out which supplies to create the exact effect that I want. I will literally draw and paint something in my mind for days, but then I never put the idea onto paper. I've realized that the best way to work through this space is to give myself permission to experiment instead of trying to get everything perfect right away. This sketchbook spread is a good example of that. Lately, I've been very intrigued by cross-hatching. I think it looks cool, it seems relaxing, it's something that I just really want to do. I'm not using reference photos for this because I know myself. I know if I find a reference photo, I'm going to get stuck on all of the details and focus on trying to make every sketch look like the photo instead of playing around and practicing the technique. I decided to use trees for this sketchbook idea because they're already weird and imperfect. They twist in random directions, they grow wonky, and I've seen enough trees in my life to just make them up as I go. This first sketchbook idea will help with your creative anxiety because using comfort art supplies and just experimenting and doing something fun that you've been wanting to try will take all of the pressure off of you. Sometimes it's all about giving ourselves permission to create without any expectations and judgment. I'm not worrying about anything. I'm just having fun with the process. So if you've been wanting to try a new idea, but you haven't had the courage to start yet, you might really enjoy this exercise. After finishing this spread, I noticed that my mind felt a lot quieter and my creative anxiety wasn't as loud anymore. For this next idea, I want you to grab an art supply that you bought. Maybe it's still in the package. Grab that supply right now and let's be courageous together. We're gonna open it up and we're gonna play with them and see if we can learn how to use them. Oh, they're beautiful. How gorgeous are these colors? One sign of creative anxiety is being inspired by everything. You know what I mean. Everything lights you up. Everything feels exciting. And then suddenly you have a box full of brand new art supplies showing up at your door. But when you open all of them up, the excitement is gone. I've wanted to try fluorescent UV paint for a long time, but I kept convincing myself that I wouldn't be able to learn how to use them. Creative anxiety has this weird way of making simple things feel impossible before you even start. Let's spend this time color swatching and exploring what our supplies can actually do. My sketchbook paper is kind of off-white, so I painted a section of white acrylic underneath my first test swatch. I'm hoping that this makes the colors glow a little bit brighter. Then I made another test section on top of black by itself and immediately realized just how transparent the paint really is. Luckily, I was experimenting in my sketchbook while hanging out in a call with 4 other YouTube creators. Di, the Aussie crafter, suggested putting a supporting color underneath the fluorescent paint, and I like the way that looks. Di also suggested that I try my favorite bubble technique with the paint to see how it reacts, and I loved that idea. I love me some good bubble art. Sometimes trying new things alone feels intimidating, but when you're experimenting around other creative people, it gets easier. Which is why I really hope that you're experimenting with something in your sketchbook right now. My favorite medium has always been acrylic paint, and I've spent years learning how to use it. But it's okay to take a break and try something new for the sake of doing something new. I don't even know what time it is. I just completely lost track of time while I was doing this. I want to try as much as I can with this UV paint to understand how it works before I make an entire video about it. And a spoiler alert, I want to do something with the tiger and the snow leopard story. Fluorescent paints are intimidating, and there is still a lot more that I have to learn about the medium. Luckily, I was able to stop worrying about whether I was good enough, and now I don't have to be anxious about these fluorescent paints anymore. If you're enjoying this video, give it a like, give it a hype, leave a comment below. What are some of the ideas that you want to create that you're just so overwhelmed with creative anxiety that you haven't done yet? I want to hear about it. And then when you're ready, let's move on to the next idea. Now, the next idea is to take some failed art and make it better. I made some crazy things in the last video. You guys were very nice in the comments, and I appreciate that. Some of you loved what I made. I can't stop thinking about this one. There's one person out there that pointed out that I forgot this petal. This is for you. So my last video was a lot of fun, but I also felt vulnerable making it. I didn't use a reference for the lion like I am now, and afterward, I couldn't stop thinking about how different it could have been if I had spent more time on it or used the supplies that I loved. Because if you saw that video, you know that I was using supplies that I didn't particularly like, and it was a struggle. Since posting that video, I've caught myself replaying it over and over in my head, thinking about how I can make it better, and that's where another part of my creative anxiety comes from. As artists, it's easy to treat every piece like it's our only chance to get it right. Like, if this version isn't perfect, we somehow failed. I speak from experience when I say that's not true. Before I continue talking about not feeling good enough, I should mention that I'm still not completely happy with this new dandelion either, but instead of starting over for a third time, I'm choosing to accept it the way that it is. I think sometimes my creative anxiety comes from believing that every piece needs to prove something about me. Like, if it doesn't turn out exactly the way I imagined it, then maybe I'm not improving fast enough, or I'm not good enough yet. Or the worst possible thought, maybe I'm just not cut out to be an artist. Those are thoughts that I constantly have going around in my head. I'm always in between thinking that I'm a great artist, I'm improving, there's so much in store for me, and I'm a terrible artist, I'm not getting any better. Why am I trying this? I'm not good at this at all, I should just give up. I'm between those two places all the time. I make really happy videos and I hope that they help people, but it's important for me to say that I'm not always happy, I'm not perfect, and I'm always struggling between these two places. Once again, these negative thoughts aren't true. We have permission to revisit an idea as many times as we want. Just because we fail at one thing doesn't mean that it defines us as artists. It's just one moment in a much bigger journey. I also think that a lot of us imagine artistic growth as this perfectly straight line where every new piece is supposed to be better than the last. But for me, it's never looked like that. I've always enjoyed experimenting with different mediums, so sometimes a lot of my art looks like the very first time I've ever made art because I don't know the medium yet. Usually the harder it is for me to begin, the more my work suffers because I spend the entire time fighting negative thoughts while I'm trying to make everything look perfect. So instead of comparing these two pieces of art and saying that one is better than the other, I'm just going to accept them both exactly as they are. The last sketchbook idea is to turn your creative anxiety into art. I have stacks of sticky notes, random notebook pages, and just screenshots full of creative ideas. I never struggle to come up with ideas because I have too many ideas. All of these brain dumps with notes and information used to be helpful because I finally had a place to put all of my thoughts, but eventually one brain dump turned into 10, and now I have doom piles of ideas everywhere. These are projects that I want to do, projects that I feel like I should do, and projects that I just need to get done to keep everything moving. I'm constantly hearing the suggestion to write your ideas down so you don't forget them, but nobody ever talks about what happens when that list multiplies and becomes a monster bigger than life. This is the biggest source of my creative anxiety, and maybe it's yours too. I want to turn the chaos into art, and of course, I'm going to make the art centered around a monster. This is the idea monster, and he's made up of all the ideas and thoughts swirling inside of your head. And I bet you're expecting me to say that he lives in Prismatica, which is the name of my monster world. But he has the ability to open portals and live inside of our heads. So this is my idea monster, and I took little scraps of paper and I glued them all over him. The ideas I'm actually interested in working on will move on to each side of the spread, while the ideas that I want to let go can stay on the monster. The idea monster becomes a lot less scary once I realize I don't actually want to hold on to every single idea that he's collected from me. As I let these ideas go, the monster slowly shrinks over time and becomes less overwhelming. He's no longer full of all the things I've been trying to carry. Now, I'm never going to be able to fully organize all of my ideas because I'm always coming up with new ones. But this spread gives that feeling a place to exist instead of just swirling around in my head. I think this is the perfect way to acknowledge how all of these ideas can create creative anxiety, and I get anxiety just by looking at it. I'm also going to use this spread to remind myself that I don't have to finish every single idea for it to have mattered to me. Some ideas are meant to grow into something bigger, and some are okay to let go. Besides, the idea monster needs something to eat, doesn't he? Thank you for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this video and found it a safe place to create and share some of the things that you're struggling with, I think you'll enjoy this playlist next, and Mike and I will see you there.